Thank you so much for tuning into my show, William Wallace for America. I am grateful for the time that you are spending with me on my podcast or my YouTube channel or my Rumble channel. Of course, if you're watching YouTube and Rumble, you're about to see the memes that I'm going to bring up and talk about here on this episode. Why do I bring up memes? I've said before, and I'll say it again. They are the hot topics that are on people's minds today. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're informative, sometimes they're solution based, but most importantly, it is reflective of what people are talking about the most. And that's where I'm going. Of course, I would like to do oftentimes like some of my other friends with other shows do, and they go down that road chasing the hot topic that fires people up. The ideological stuff, the narrative driven stuff, and the stuff that kind of makes videos and shows go more viral. But as you know, I like to stay on that path of just being more informative and observational, if you will, because I believe that is where we can all find things that bring us a little bit more together to find those solutions. I know there I go again, talking about bringing people together and solutions. But the reality is, I think when you are empathetic, listen to the other side, watch what's going on, and be a little bit more collective in your thinking. You don't have to give up your ideologies or your beliefs or the morals or the things you adhere to that make you you. Sometimes just lending an ear to other information and not allowing yourselves to be or not allowing yourselves to chase that shiny object that it fires you up. Sometimes you hear other information that opens your ears and maybe makes you a little bit more, how shall I say, more informed on the overall things that are happening in our country. But I will cover a few hot topics right now. For instance, the filibuster or the SAVE Act. Most Americans want this. Republicans, Democrats, most of them want this. But we're finding that, or let me just say it this way. I think that the excuse of the filibuster is being used to kill the SAVE Act because there's some Republicans that really don't want election integrity, or they're in the middle of a power struggle or an election where it may not benefit them. They want to be able to say, oh, we're all for election integrity, but we couldn't get that filibuster thing taken care of. We couldn't decide whether to use it or not use it, whether it was right for us, even though we've got control of the Senate and we've got control of the House by narrow margins. Granted, we had to use that tool and just couldn't or didn't have to. Either way, they're going to use the excuse of the filibuster to either not call it to a vote, but to kill it. Mark my words, there are Republicans who either don't like Trump and don't want to hand him a victory, or again, they're in the middle of a power struggle or an election themselves. As for Iran, I'm going to make this a real simple statement because I'm not going to go down there. It's not where I'm going with this today. Just something different to think about. People want to blame Trump for how he handled Iran, is handling it, or for going to war with them. That's not my point right now. My point is that one day Iran was have to be dealt with in a stronger way because the last bunch of administrations have capitulated, we'll say it best. When you got Obama giving them cash, the Clintons appeasing them, or hey, you can even blame Trump in the last administration for not being more diplomatic or doing things then, or you can blame Biden afterwards in lifting certain sanctions and letting them get away with things. Either way, the last few generations of politicians have not dealt with it strategically, properly, diplomatically enough, however you want to look at it. We got a mess over there. It's no different than the messes that are going on all over our country and all over elsewhere in the world. I know it's common sense. Oh, William, that's just common sense. That's the way the world works and the politicians are bad. I get it. But we allow ourselves to get fired up in our hate for certain politicians instead of being informed and involved in other ways that we can strategically stop future generations of politicians from not listening to us and doing their policies and their bidding that will hurt us in the future. I'm not going to go down there any further at all whatsoever. Today's show is brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Please go visit Patriot Mobile at patriotmobile.com/WWFA. Go to that. That's my portal there where it supports my show, supports Patriot Mobile. They love America, veterans, our Constitution, First Amendment, Second Amendment, and pro-life issues. But better yet, you will also find competitive rates that fit any budget, and they have great coverage because they use all the carrier lines. My first meme for the day. Oh, I'm going backwards a little bit, if you will. My first meme is actually one that I forgot to put in my last meme show. And when I saw that I forgot to put it up, I said, oh gosh, there's more that I wanted to talk about it. It's a picture of Representative McBride, who is the transgender congresswoman, man, whatever she is or wants to be. I'm not going to play that game, his, her, whatever it is. I brought it up the last time because she said that she felt disrespected at the State of the Union speech. But I had other information that I forgot to tell you in the last one, which is she is from Rhode Island, I do believe. Is it Rhode Island? Oh, no, I forgot. I'm going to pull this up while I talk about it. She is actually... You have to pardon me on the video for the jump because I paused the video for a second to look up McBride to make sure that I got something. But yes, sure enough, she is from is from Delaware. And born a he, now identifying as a woman. But the reason I brought this up again is because she's the representative for Delaware. But an interesting piece of information, Delaware only has one congressional district. So let's see if a representative for Delaware she's at large congressional district. Author, LGBTQ rights activist, member of the Democratic Party. Where we got this, I'll just tell you the information that I read last time. Delaware is such a small population that they only have one congressperson. So think about that. They've got 2 U.S. senators, but 1 congresswoman or person, whatever. I know but I looked it up because I certainly did not want to get zapped by AI or social media for saying the wrong pronouns, which I have, I guess, intentionally, or get something wrong. But either way, I thought it was an important note to make that you've got a state which is now being represented by an LGBTQ person, and all the different things that go along with that. And, that person has more power than a U.S. senator because there's one of her and, of course, 2 senators. Either way, that was a little piece of information I wanted to bring up last time. My next meme up, it says, Senator Rand Paul, truth bomb. Fractional reserve banking equals your money isn't really there. And when it collapses, you bail it out through inflation and taxes. Balance the budget in the bailouts, audit the Fed. I like how they said audit the Fed because I don't think you can end the Fed. I think it's part of that thread, as I've mentioned so many times, that is so connected within our government, that our government is threaded in such a way with not only many agencies or departments or bureaucratic agencies, or in this case, it's not even a branch of the U.S. government. It's not even a part of the U.S. government, but it's so interwoven into our system, you can't just take it out. Just like there's a lot of corruption and other things that are woven through our federal government in such a way we can't remove it, even though it's hurting our country. In the bailouts, 100% agree with that, and balance the budget. Why aren't we doing that? Because it doesn't work in favor of printing money. And of course, it doesn't work in favor of the hidden tax, which is as this talks about inflation. My next meme up says it's a picture of Schumer. I don't know what this other woman's name is, Biden, and then Gavin Newsom. And it gives quotes on what they're saying recently. Recently, think about this. Schumer, blacks aren't capable of getting IDs. The woman says blacks don't know what a computer is. I think she is, well, I don't even want to guess where she was, but I remember that story. And then, of course, Joe Biden says, you ain't black unless you vote for me. But he just recently talked about how he was so much smarter than everybody else at Jesse Jackson's funeral, by the way. And then you've got Gavin Newsom, who says he's just like the black people because he can't, or his scores are so low. It was a reading score, I think, on the SAT test. Either way, we're learning more and more about the hatred of some of these people on the left and what they really think about us. People wonder why I'm Republican. Some people say, why aren't you more of an independent? Sometimes you sound more like an independent, and some people, of course, think I'm a right-wing extremist, but that goes without saying, I guess, that some people are going to think that because you say one thing and they put a label on you. Yeah, this is one thing, but when you take this one thing that they've said and you add it up on all the other policies they've created, things they've done through the last bunch of generations, we are seeing who people on the left, and I don't even want to say Democrats, because I got a lot of friends who are Democrats that vote Democrat that are really more Republican in a lot of ways. They just vote with Democrats because they are so passionate about single issues. But this goes to show you, and that's why I talk in terms of being an empathetic listener to people that you disagree with, to looking at other information. Because if you're on the voting Democrat, and we as Republicans would be more empathetic to listening to those issues that they're one issue that they're voting for with the party, we could bring more of these people to fight with us when we open their eyes with other information like this, for instance, that might be your one issue, but that one issue is causing you to support people like this who hate black people, who hate Jewish people, or hate the rest of America, or they hate conservatives. They hate anybody who votes differently from them. But when you become an empathetic listener and you talk about other pieces of information, which is what I try to do on my show, I believe that we can bring more of those one issue voters to our side if we can offer solutions in such a way that are not narrative driven, but collectively bringing information together that points out not only the people that don't care about you. I know, I get it. There's people who hate Trump. Oh, he doesn't care about you. And I can hear other people that are, well, these Republicans don't care about you for whatever reason. But when you start looking at all the information, it starts to point out the elected officials that really don't care about us or you or the people they say they support. It really points out, it highlights things, shines a light on such a way that, not that you want to say that your own politicians aren't looking as bad as some of the things they may be doing, but it may help guide that light on other candidates in the future that are going to be more solution-based instead of ideological-based, and break those barriers that if you're not a Republican or a Democrat, you're not going to win. Either way, not saying independents should take the stage, but in general, we get a better quality of candidate when we can support other information that's out there. My next meme up, the white cat on one side and Jasmine Crockett on the other. Jasmine Crockett, after previously claiming voter fraud is a conspiracy, she did. I did check that out. And she's screaming at the cat, I lost because Republicans cheated. Cat, of course, says, you lost the Democrat primaries. Republicans weren't even a part of it, or i.e. .ie. The point is, it's those narratives that people will grasp onto when it benefits them to gain traction over some ideology. But when you look at it overall, as I'm going to point out a little bit more in some of my election-based memes today, and you look at it, you see there is fraud, but you can't say it's Republican fraud because the Republicans say it's Democrat fraud. But when you just look at the fraud in general and you look at the fact that both sides, neither side is doing anything about it. Right now, Republicans have the opportunity to do something about election fraud. It's positive. It's bipartisan in a lot of ways. I know there's a lot of Democrats who aren't going to vote for it. Democrats aren't going to vote for it just because it's a Trump policy, but Democrat voters support election integrity and voter ID in general. The voters do, which is why I say all the time that we have to start looking at things, showing information a little bit differently, because there's so many Democrats that vote Democrat, not realizing that Republicans are actually empathetic, and we could come together with some ideas that solve these problems, and politicians would be, how shall we say, would be better off if they listened to us when it comes to their next election and not getting voted out. By the way, more to that SAVE Act stuff that's going on, I almost think that Republicans in the Senate are playing with fire, because they're going to be the reason why we lose. They're going to be one reason we lose the midterms. Or I don't want to say that we will. I don't want to say that yet. I'm afraid that we will. But I'm afraid that we will because Republicans in some ways are messing up. The SAVE Act, for instance. They are playing with the filibuster right now, which I said earlier I think is intended to kill the SAVE Act, or the excuse of it is intended to kill the SAVE Act. And while they're playing around with their power struggle, they are going to piss off enough Republicans and motivate enough Democrats, because the argument and the fight over the filibuster and and all the arguments that are coming out of it are only empowering Democrats. And as a result, it could be another or a nail in the coffin for the Republican midterms, or the Republicans winning the midterms. These are the things that I'm talking about that we have to do as Republicans and conservative-minded people who know where the good policies are, who know where the insanity lies or lives, who knows where some of the false flags are being flown that galvanize those Democrat voters or those one-issue Democrat voters, that we could get to fight with us and help us win the midterms. If we talk more fact stuff, forget, is Trump really right for going in Iran, or is this person really right for doing that? Forget that. Start uncovering other information, or in this case, the craziness of Jasmine Crockett, for instance, saying that she lost because Republicans cheated. The problem is she's going to get away with it, and there's going to be so many Democrats that say Republicans cheat. Forget that. It's Republicans, or most Republicans that want, or most Republicans in office that want the SAVE Act. Forget that it's Democrats that are saying that Republicans only want it because they're going to cheat with it. You can't cheat with this stuff. But this is the reason I point this stuff out. This is the reason I try not to go down the rabbit hole of, somebody being 100% right or not, and exposing other information that we just need to be aware of and watch out for. My other meme is, don't forget about Richardson Nutritional Center. If you have heard about the power of apricot seeds and B17, go to rncstore.com/WWFA, gets you discounts. But if you haven't heard about it, go look it up. you're going to find a lot of things that might open your eyes to your medical freedom. My next meme is a picture of Jim Jordan pointing to the American people. An ex going over a picture of, I think it's Ilhan Omar. This is another thing that's going on. Jim Jordan introduces a bill requiring American-born citizenship for president, which we already have. So I wonder if this meme is 100% correct. But his bill is talking about having born citizenship for members of Congress. Yes, I support that because I get the concept that if we have a population of people, they want to have their representation that might reflect them. But I also feel stronger about the fact that we should have members of Congress that not only born in America, but not that being born in America makes you love America more or makes you committed to America, but it does cut a pathway off for someone who may move to America with an agenda to help their own country or a foreign adversary easier because they're in Congress. We're finding that I've heard that there's ties to Elon through the Somali daycares, through the funneling of money going back to Somalia, helping out people who hate America. I think it's smart. People are trying to make that it's a hateful thing against Ilhan Omar, but really what happened in her district is just the catalyst for common sense legislation, which I think this is. Now, Democrats are going to come across hating it now because they're going to say it's racist, hateful, bigoted, or whatever. But I can promise you, if there's a Republican in office when the Democrats have control, that they would flip the switch and want the same thing to protect their interest. It's a smart piece of legislation. I think our country is faced with so many illegal immigrants right now that in the future, our Congress, without our House of Representatives, without legislation like this, could be in peril or at risk to have somebody coming in who, and by the way, they get inside information, not just on trading of stocks, but they get inside information on what's going on in our government. It's too easy to pass on to foreign adversaries, especially, again, like I said, hey, look, we got Democrats that hate America that were born here. But this is a small step in the right direction. The next meme shows a picture of three, I guess it's elected officials facing the Capitol. We see their backs. We really don't know who they are, but it says opinion. If you're not mad, 357 members of Congress made the conscious decision to cover up sexual harassment records. You aren't paying enough attention. I wanted to point this out because this is nonpartisan. Republicans and Democrats, or shall I say Democrats and Republicans, both voted in the majority to cover up members of Congress, their sexual harassment records. And they did it with you have to vote yes to vote no or whatever it was. Don't get me wrong. Look, understand that one perfectly. Politicians, both on local levels and on a federal level, all like to word the legislation so they can say, well, I voted for it, meaning like they voted to do the right thing, when actually voting for it in this case killed it in another way. It's just like that tax. Like if you vote against it, you vote for it. They learn how to word it in their favor. And since the majority of these voted in favor to not make the records public, and by the way, Congress has a slush fund to pay off the people who claim harassment. Now, I'm going to go on the other side of this issue for just a second, play the advocate for the other side. I'm sure there's a lot of people making false claims of sexual harassment and everything against congressmen. So I'm sure at one time maybe they say, hey, we need some protection here because people are going to always, try to, claim we did something bad. We just need a little help here. I get it. But to vote against releasing the records means they don't want to point the fingers at each other because they're all in trouble. Mind you, these are the same people yelling at each other to release the Epstein records. Democrats, Republicans were both on the opposite and same sides of the fence. Release the records, don't release the records. Oh, I can't believe they didn't release the records. If they didn't release the records, it's because they were on the records. And here, the majority voted to not release the records of incrimination of each other who they know are on the list themselves. My point, they voted to not be transparent. And that, my friends, is bipartisan. Doesn't matter which side of the fence you are on. It actually, if you're on opposite sides of this, it should bring you closer to realize that oftentimes, collectively, these politicians are not on our side, which means more and more reasons we have to find ways to fight together on issues that give us power and diminish their control over us. The next meme is a picture of Representative Chip Roy. Breaking news, but he says, maybe it's time to dump all 435 in the House, all 100 in the Senate, and start from scratch because Congress is failing Americans. My point exactly. Not that we're going to be able to get unelect all of it at the same time, but it gives you an idea when people on the inside are telling you that they're the problem. Yet we're fighting with each other, telling each other that you're wrong for believing. And again, I've got Republicans fighting amongst themselves, of course, a lot on local issues, but on national issues, on who's more right than the other, who's wrong, who hates Trump more, who supports Trump more. When the problem is the collectiveness of what happens to elected officials when they get in office to represent us. Independently, they're all for us. Independently, they're all great people. But collectively, they have so much power, they realize how much more together they have to be. I get it. A lot of the votes these days are down party lines when it comes to issues where they're fighting over a Trump bill or a Republican bill or whatever. Yeah, I get it. Understand it. But when we look at that overall, generations of elected officials are not worried about us. Many of them operate in a way to continue government the way it is with all of its flaws because it's easier to perpetuate the system than it is to dismantle it, or in this case, unelect everybody in DC. The next meme is a picture of a pallet of cash. Iran oppresses and silences its people. Obama in 2016 sends the regime $1.7 billion in cash. I mentioned this earlier. We can fuss about who is, or if Trump's handling Iran correctly now, whether you think he is or he isn't. The reality is, generations of politicians before him have not handled it correctly, which is why it's out of hand right now. Which makes the point, maybe he is doing the right thing about going in, but personally, I would rather hear more diplomatic talk, words, and conversations than just the slamming of the fist in dialogue speech that this is the way we're doing it, take it or leave it. I get it. Again, I said this before. Humans want toughness. Humans are also, when you're on the opposite side of that toughness, are scared of it, which evil often scurries or retracts from toughness. It's how you win. Maybe this is the right thing to do. In some people, I'm not going to go down that avenue right now. I'm going to stop myself because, quite honestly, I think Iran had to be dealt with in some way, shape, or form. But I don't have the information that President Trump has. I don't see whether there's talks that Iran had a motive for an EMP. There's talks that Iran had other motives to attack us ahead of time. There's other talk out there that Israel was going to go in with or without us. And had they gone in without us, we would have been the target and drug into it, but only as a result of us being attacked by Iran preemptively. Oh, they would have never done that. Maybe not, publicly, but maybe behind the scenes through sleeper cells or that EMP attack. Of course, it wouldn't have gotten revealed till generations later when we got our grids back up. But I would like to think, especially, and I'm using Iran as a talking point right now. I would like to think on all the issues that we could criticize my Republican friends or elected officials on the right about, or even benefit of the doubt to some of the Democrats, that there's things behind the scenes that we don't know. Now, I'm going to retract a little bit. I'm going brakes. Back up a little bit. When you look at some of the things that the Democrats say and do, you 100% know it's wrong. Especially when it comes to election integrity, the stupid stuff they say, like Jasmine Crockett. And I'm only bringing that up because I talked about it in my show. There's thousands of other examples. What I'm referring to is policies that, and usually it's the policies that don't get a lot of publicity. I would like to think that there's things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about that cause our elected officials to do some of the things that they're doing. I think that applies more to Republicans in this administration. Whether you agree with Iran or not, I would like to think or hope that there are things that we don't know about publicly that justify war in Iran right now. And I'm going to hang my hat on that thought without giving a personal, because I really don't have a huge personal opinion on it, quite honestly. I can go with my strong MAGA friends and my friends that are like, we needed to do this. Good that we did this. I can understand that thought process. But I worry, and I like diplomacy first. And while that is not my answer, I would like to see more information before I hang my hat on an opinion that, because I could all day long go, oh, I believe in it. I agree with my Republican friends, my far right friends. And maybe it comes out later that, like the thing in Iraq, we go into Iraq thinking that they have weapons of mass destruction, later to find out that they don't, only to find out later that there were some. You get all this conflicting information. Were we justified with information that is not made public? That is where I'm going to with that. And for me to give an opinion without knowing that information, I'm just not. Because I don't know. I don't know if there's things that we don't know about. And I would like for other Americans to take that approach. Don't not have an opinion. You can have one, I guess. You can have one. I'm choosing not to publicly have one. I'm going to wince on that a little bit because after I said it, I go, I'm going to choose to say this. My opinion is this. I believe that Iran had to be dealt with I believe something had to be done. Whether exactly what's being done is the right thing, I can't answer because I don't know what our government knows. I don't know the top secret information. I don't know if it's overreach. Do they not have any information and they just did this? Or do they have a lot of information that we can't know about yet? So I believe something had to be done. Whether what's being done or not is the right way is what I don't have an opinion on. There we go. I know it took a long time to get there, but the good thing is I'm thinking out with you guys, my listeners. I want you to be able to kind of feel connected to know that I don't just jump and spout off opinions. I actually kind of think them through, especially when I'm talking to you about it. Either way, as this meme stated, we can't dump all of our blame or all of our anger or all of our or the weight of our opinions about Iran on Donald Trump. You can't. I mean, the people who hate him are hating him more and blaming him more. I get it. People love him or loving him more because of what he's doing. But the reality is, we can't, if we really think this out and look at all the other information, like I just talked about, and you look at what previous administrations have done, you go back to Jimmy Carter and see that it has been piling up and getting to a point that has to be dealt with in some way, shape, or form. And I just simply want people to realize that it is a lot of other people's faults that we're here. And if we don't wake up and find more ways to bring more people together on elections in the future, we're going to continue to have future politicians govern, dictate, create policies, navigate world affairs in more of an ideological way to appease certain voter bases instead of doing the right thing to secure America, and especially secure America from any kind of future attack. And I will leave that meme on that thought. My next meme, I got my Pillow meme up. If you go to mypillow.com/WWFA, gets you a discount. And the next meme is a picture of some Somalians, a family. And it says 89% of Somali immigrant households with children in Minnesota rely on welfare, according to a report analyzing U.S. Census Bureau data. Okay, I'm sorry. The analysis says about 81% of Somali immigrants, that's a huge percentage, Somali immigrant-headed households overall use at least one welfare program, including food stamps, Medicaid, or cash assistance. Let's cover this one in a matter of a minute or less, or a little bit more. If you immigrate to another country, you can't use their health and welfare systems. You can't go on it. They don't allow it. I know England might be an exception. I don't know all the England rules, but most other countries, you can't go there and get assistance. You have to, in order to immigrate there and become a citizen, you have to provide your own assistance, period. I know there's a few exceptions in some countries around the world, but in general, the United States is the most, I'll say, compassionate, or shall I say, the policies that have been created by mostly Democrats appeasing their base while at the same time going back and criticizing their base, i.e. Democrats' opinions on the black population that they put into the welfare system by taking fathers out of their homes, and other policies that have taken away their work ethic and have created people that are subservient to government instead of empowering themselves. And that thought process has been It with the white people too. It's simply there are actually more white people now in the system than black people. But when you want to talk about minorities, it's hurt the minority population more than it has the white population. And that's why Democrats want so many immigrants, because if they appease to them through these same welfare programs, they think that they are not only getting another voting base, but they are latching other people on to becoming dependent on the government and government policies that they create to empower politicians. But at the same time, they hurt our communities, because when you get people dependent on government, you don't create a community or a state or a country where people are contributing to our system and contributing to enriching our country and making our country a better place. You create a population of people that are dependent on the government, who don't want anything better for themselves or can't get better themselves, because if they do, the government forces them off of their assistance. But government's playing both sides, because they realize that while they're creating more dependency, they're creating more dependency on government and them, keeps them in power, keeps the printing presses rolling, strengthens the bureaucratic state, keeping that, remember, that corrupt bureaucratic state, that those threads that I've talked about that make us so dependent on government we can't unravel it, or the whole system would crash. It's been built up slowly over time, but if we didn't have that, we have a great country. We got the greatest country in the world with the best opportunity, but that would be magnified if we did not have so much dependency on government. But if we didn't have dependency on government, political power would be at the lowest in history. And political power would be our power. We'd have power over government. So I think that, especially the Democratic Party in particular, is realizing that generations of people that have been on the welfare state, generations of people that have been held down by government, had their fathers removed out of their homes, they are realizing that the Democrat Party is not for them. They are realizing that politicians are not doing them any favors. More people are waking up to the gig, if you will. So politicians, particularly Democrats, need more of that illegal immigration and getting them hooked on programs. The Somalis are just an example, because it's the hot topic right now, because so much fraud was uncovered in Minnesota. And as a result, we're realizing, the American people are realizing, that there's so much fraud in this country and we're paying for. Imagine how much better Americans, how much better we as Americans could be doing, how much better we could be living, how much more we could be paying our military, how much better our communities would be, how much better our streets would be, how much better our infrastructure would be if this money was being put back into investment into our communities and our buildings and our country and our roads and our military. If our military was stronger, our military was paid more, we'd have a stronger military that other countries would go, whoa. Iran, for example, yeah, they see us as strong, but they see our politicians fighting amongst themselves. They see us fighting amongst ourselves over ideologies. They're paying attention. Don't think they're not. And as a result, they see our military getting weaker in some ways. They know they can get away with it. If we woke up and started paying more attention to each other and working together more with each other, demanding a more responsible, a more fiscally responsible government, our communities, our state would be fiscally healthier, our military would be healthier, and we would be way more powerful than we are right now. The reason why we still have power is simply because America has that reputation. And ultimately, they know that even when we're down, if we got attacked, there'd be no stopping us because American people pull together in times of trouble. But think about what we could do if we were always working together and always doing the things that we need to do to help each other. I know I got way off my next meme. I don't have too many more. Consumers don't produce inflation. This is by Milton Friedman. It's just a JPEG of the picture of his quote. Consumers don't produce inflation. Producers don't produce inflation. Inflation is produced only by too much government spending and too much government creation of money and nothing else. Milton Friedman is that black economist that gets forgotten about. If you read his story, he's not forgotten about because he's black. He got kicked out of the club, so to speak, because it didn't fit what he was saying and the color of his skin. He tells that story, but he has stood true by his words, and many people are waking up to him. But either way, it tells you in government is our elected officials that aren't listening to us, love the fact that we're divided on ideology instead of fiscal responsibility, instead of uniting on fiscal responsibility. Think about it. If we had less government programs, we helped each other. And that's the reason we don't, is one of the many reasons we don't help each other is, well, we don't want to, we can't put our differences, our ideologies aside to help certain groups of people, not necessarily color of skin, but certain groups, because we get divided on whether the programs are right or not right or whatever. But think about if we did. Think about if we not only work together on solutions, we'd have less government. Politicians are only stepping in because we're letting them step in. We're letting them do all of these different policies and fiscal policies and bureaucratic agencies because they're stepping in using our ideological beliefs and divisions to create more government. Oh, we're going to create this policy to, do this or that in business. I know I say it simply like that, not because I'm stupid, just because it's short, but you get the gist of it. And as a result, too much government creates the inflation intentionally because it's the hidden tax. And we're not blaming politicians for the inflation. We're blaming, it's just because, prices are high because of this or that. We're not pointing to the politicians that have created the policies that created the inflation, but they're getting the government gets the benefit of the taxes created as a result. And politicians don't get unelected because it's one of those hidden taxes that they, quote, didn't vote for. All right, my next meme up says a picture of Hakeem Jeffries. It's a post by the Republican Army. It says, Holy Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries says Democrats are refusing to reopen DHS because Republicans will not commit to keeping ICE agents away from polling places. He just admitted Democrats anticipate illegals voting. It is true. Do we need ICE by I know that federal government is not supposed to police the local polling stations. I don't know how to recite that exact law, but it's there. If we had federal government policing our polling stations, then there's interference. There's federal interference. I'm not saying it right, but you get the gist of it. But Hakeem Jeffries is also saying something that probably would not happen anyway, because the federal government cannot send federal troops to our polling stations. I'm going to look this one up. The next podcast, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper in this one and get you a little bit more information on that. But again, my information, well, sometimes I ramble a little bit on some of these memes. The gist of it is, in this case, while he's inciting fear, kind of like Jasmine Crockett was saying that Republicans cheated, that's why she lost when it was a Democrat primary against another Democrat. No different here. They say stuff that people believe. And there's going to be a lot of people, oh, yeah, Trump is going to send in ICE agents to the polling stations. I will look that up. But I also know that is probably a false flag. Here we go. On my next meme up, picture of Mike Johnson and Thune. And it says, we have the House, the Senate, and White House for over 14 months now. It's also by Gunther Eagleman. I want to give credit for his X post. But we have yet to pass simple, secure election laws. Proof of citizenship, voter ID, same-day voting, paper ballots. Our GOP has failed us miserably. I would not blame Mike Johnson on this one because I know he wants it. It's more on the Senate side on here. But again, the political games that are going on behind the scenes, who knows? And it's because of the political games, which is ironic because Republicans especially, want to win the midterms, and Republicans say they want to win the midterms, but they're too busy fighting behind the scenes. And I know they got to realize what they're doing to the chances of Republicans winning the midterms again. They got to know what they're doing. But the political power is so strong in the desire, the quest for political power is so strong in them that they don't care. Damn the country, which we can expand that a little bit and say the political power struggles on both the Republican side and the Democrat side are so strong that they often forget about the people and the health of our country. Our next meme up here, my next meme up, it shows Jimmy Kimmel on one side. There is no meaningful voter fraud. There is no evidence of it. While on the other side, it shows 98,000 Arizona voters found registered without verified citizenship. Again, the information is coming out all over the place. Now that we do have a Republican president and Republicans in charge, more information is getting out there that there was fraud. And there's proof of that fraud, which that's not the intention of this show right now. It's just to wake people up and see that there's more information out there. Chuck Schumer said the Democrats will block any attempt to pass voter ID laws. The cheating is right in our faces at this point. Or that meme is saying the cheating is right in the faces. It's a picture of Chuck Schumer, of course. They're telling us they don't want voter ID laws. Why? Of course, they'll tell you that because blacks can't get IDs, that women won't be able to vote or get IDs. The same groups of people that they say they're for, which, well, they are for those people if they want them to be able to vote, but at the same time, it's condescending. We're in an age of time, an age where it's easy to get your voter ID. It's easy to get your ID. I get that there may be a few situations where some woman has had a hard time because she changed her name, got married, she had to go do an extra couple steps. But it doesn't stop people from voting. But the proof that they're telling us that they're going to block attempts for voter ID laws tells us that they don't want election integrity. The next meme, second to last meme, says outrageous, weak need rhino John Thune. It's a picture of John Thune in the back. It's a picture from the Gateway Pundit. I'll read it again. Outrageous! Exclamation point. Weak need rhino John Thune mocks American voters. Labels fight to push Save America Act is nothing but a propaganda by paid influencers. You see, it comes from the right-wing Republicans also, that they're using the same type of rhetoric, narratives to get you to justify their actions. There's a power struggle right now in the Senate, and we're seeing it in the election senator race between Cornyn and I'm having a mind break for a second here. That Ken Paxton. Sorry about that. I had to pause for a second, and then it's a boom. And I get so fired up sometimes. And I was going back to the primaries when there's multiple people in the race. But the runoff is what I was getting to, is with Ken Paxton. Either way, the power struggles, they don't care. Do they really care about this? They don't care because the power struggle, of course, there's some people, some of these senators that don't like Trump, and they're keeping that behind the scenes because they have re-elections coming up. And of course, they know they don't want to piss off certain voting bases. Either way, John Thorne is mocking the American voters by saying that labels fight to push Save America Act is nothing but a propaganda by paid influencers. Oh, I'm not a paid, well, I guess I am a paid influencer, but I'm more of a paid talk show host. Here we go. We've got one of the last memes up is the SAVE Act might not pass. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says this is just another one kind of on the same lines, but a different meme to make more, to go deeper into this information. There's another meme that I saw here. The SAVE, by Terrence Williams, by the way. The SAVE Act might not pass. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says Thune cast major doubt on whether the Save America Act could pass, using a talking filibuster, saying it's very hard to see the strategy working. Having studied it and researched it pretty thoroughly, you have to show me how, in the end, it prevails and succeeds. Like I said, my friends, they will say something that's convenient to do the smoke and mirrors to cover the power struggle that's going on behind the scenes that they don't want you to know about. All the while, they are risking the future of America with more election integrity problems in the future, as we find that more and more illegal immigrants are going to be able to vote in our future elections. All the more reason to have the other bill passed that you have to be an American-born citizen to run for office. That, my friends, is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I would love it if you shared this episode with somebody else. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, and God bless you, and God bless America.